Hello everyone, my name is Adam Michael Anthony Simpson and you're watching my YouTube channel, Adam M.A. Simpson. This is part 2 of my interview with Professor Monica Cox, Professor of Engineering Education at The Ohio State University. Please stay tuned to learn more about Professor Cox's research, and I hope you enjoy. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you want to watch more videos like this. Now I'm going to pivot into the second half of this interview. And this half is more about your research and other things. So, Professor Cox, I understand that you hold more leadership positions for your work, which may shift or blend the lines between teaching, research, and service. It seems that from your platform, they may all blend together, and I think they do. Is that a correct assessment?
Yes. Yeah.
So then you seem to have been, you were a box checker.
Okay.
And then now, since you're a mother now, and you say that you're more an activist.
Mm-hmm.
How has that affected your teaching and academic career? If you're really trying to make an impact in multiple ways, not just the, stereotypical professor, esoteric impact, not necessarily easy to translate to the public. How are you going about being a leader in different ways?
Yeah. So let me talk a little bit about the academic path a little bit, because when you first come into academia and you're like, I was a tenure track faculty, so you're an assistant professor, an associate professor. Mm-hmm. You have to check the boxes, as you said. So it's really mm-hmm. much like your head is down. You're doing the things that are expected of you in terms of the journal pubs, the grant publications, graduating with students. And that's really important because you are establishing yourself in your career. Mm-hmm. But what's happening over time is that it's not as much about you as it is about your community, and as it is about mentoring those who come mm-hmm. after you. So your mindset shifts. And when I talk about the activism, I say intersectionality is really important to me. So being a Black woman, a young Black woman, being a young Black woman from the South, being a young Black woman from the South who's a mother, mm-hmm. all of that comes into play for me. And I feel that I am beginning to see how wholeness is so important. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not just, I talked to you about being a first, mm-hmm. and over time, that type of stress weighs on you. Mm-hmm. And I've seen people who are maybe 15 or 20 years ahead of me, and sometimes they seem so broken. Like they have gone through, they've weathered the storm. And I'm talking about like women of mm-hmm. color. And I'm thinking, man, I don't want to be there in 20 years. Mm-hmm. So the activism is a space where I'm saying, I don't want to hear the same stories 20 years from now that people are saying now, and people said 20 years before me. Mm-hmm. So it's making sure that these systems are better, making sure that women, BIPOC, women of color, have seats at the table, but they also have voices at that table. I feel like my activism is speaking up when other people can't speak up. Mm-hmm. And I would say, as a department chair, something that was really important to me was modeling speaking up and encouraging that, so that when I was not around, other people felt that they could do that.
They could do it. It was a safe place to bring up their issues and not get the backlash.
Absolutely. And then, one word that I use all the time, but I don't see it in higher education as much as I would like, is courage. I've been very disappointed by that. And I think, you have to build your courage muscles just like workout. And it comes from speaking up when you need to speak up, or not, or doing something that is not typical, but know that you're being
right.
Advocate, that ally, that co-conspirator, that accomplice, all those things that we're now talking about. You need to be that way. But that doesn't happen overnight. So I don't know if I answered, but I think I did.
I like the way that you answered. Yes, you did.
And you know what? One thing I'll say is that for young people, for faculty, for grad students, postdocs, if there's any advice that I would have for them as they're moving to that place, is like what I said, it's like working out. You have to be courageous every day. This is very practical when, like, now I'm a coach for different faculty, and I say things like, write down your expectations, write down your boundaries, like figure that out before you're in a situation where it's tested. So in what environment do you have these non-negotiables? You're like, if someone says this or does this to me, then there's going to be an issue, because I think sometimes people get so caught up in doing the work that if and when something unethical happens, they ignore it because it's like, whoa, I didn't expect that. But then when you ignore it, that's perpetuating it, and then you cause the situation you shouldn't. So I just say, once again, know who you are before. Just say, I'll walk away if this happens. And I'm sorry, this is the last thing I'll say, because you got me flowing. Because it's an example of like abuse. And I use this because I see so many people who are broken, and in the same way that you wouldn't have someone physically hit you, whenever you're in academia, think about what that looks like, in terms of translating. Where are your non-negotiables? Is it, someone making you do something that is unethical, like falsifying data? Is it you having to say something against someone because of their race, their gender, or whatever? Like, if you see that, are you a person who's going to speak up no matter who it is? Like, you need to know your values, know your core. Your core should not change because you have a PhD. Your core should not change because you're a professor. Your core should not change because you're the only one in that environment. And I think so often we feel that it has to change for us to fit in, but that's when you are now not who you are supposed to be and who you need to be as a person.
You find yourself doing things that you can't recognize.
Absolutely.
If you don't know your values. I thank you for bringing that up. And so your activism is a mechanism to prevent cynicism in the future.
I think so. It is. It is. And it's also, just like I said, representation. But one thing I'll say about activism, this is the second time I've said something like this, so I feel like there's a theme here. Remember I told you, like, being a first is scary. Being an activist is scary too.
It is.
Why do I do this? What is this?
Build up the courage to say something and then stand behind it, and know that you might get backlash. You might not get some recognition for something because you're seen as difficult. And you always have to keep that in your mind. That's what activism is. And yeah.
Yes. And I also had a picture of John Lewis. I was showing you some of my other pictures, but I saw John Lewis in the airport. And, he talks about that, about good trouble. And I think one thing about activism is that you don't know how it's going to end, and maybe you said that too, but it's like you take a risk. And so, I'll use that word risk. You'll notice words that keep coming up: courage, risk. And you're just like, am I gonna be successful if I take this risk? I don't know. And so I think that's why a lot of people don't do stuff. It's like, I'd rather have that thing that's solid with that paycheck coming in and, have my community and be like, yes, versus I may lose it all.
I completely get that.
Oh, anyway. Just bringing it out of me. I'm like, what in the world? What am I doing in life?
This is a new book. Your new book is called...
Yes, prophesy the book. Yes.
Awesome. And so I understand that you are the director of the International Institute of Engineering Education Assessment and CEO of STEMinent LLC, which you describe as a brand that houses a variety of STEM education offerings. On your website, you describe your research as focused upon the use of mixed methodologies to explore significant research questions in undergraduate, graduate, and professional engineering education to integrate concepts from higher education and learning science into engineering education and disseminate reliable and valid assessment tools for use across the engineering education continuum. Do you encourage new faculty to use their research not only for academic impact, but also for a social and possibly greater financial gain?
Oh, of course. Yes. Yes. I think that, entrepreneurship is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many opportunities that are there. And I think that it helps to broaden the reach. And it's, the reach that you have beyond your lab or beyond your current university. But it also, I think, has the ability to empower other people. Like, it's something that's also sustainable. We often think about research, it's like you have this finite, time, you have a time, a length of time, a duration in which you do that work. But when you're thinking about entrepreneurship, there's that excitement of, how do I somehow sustain this? How do I bring more people in? How do I broaden my impact, by having people invest in the idea and the things that I believe. So it keeps you sharp. It keeps you on your toes. And I love that part. So I absolutely think people should do it.
And can you speak more about your project, Why We Persist, an intersectional study to characterize and examine the experiences of women tenure track faculty in engineering? I understand that you are the principal investigator of this project, which is funded by the National Science Foundation, NSF.
Yes.
What are the key findings of this work that you have pursued?
Yeah, so I'm the PI, but then I have some co-PIs, one from Vanderbilt, Dr. Ebony McGee, and one from Purdue, Dr. Joyce Main. And we have a team of consultants and people who have worked with us across the country. But that project is really good. And we call it Why We Persist because we're all women of color. And we got together and we started talking about how bad higher education is for women of color. And we're like, this is awful. And we're isolated and marginalized and token. We're tokens and we have pioneerism and, all this stuff. And, the question was, well, why do we persist? Like, why are we still in this? What's going on? And we're like, well, we want to know why other people stay, despite all the research that says we shouldn't. So, that has been really interesting. So we had a survey, we had qualitative interviews, and what have we learned? We know that wage disparities are still prevalent. For women of color, it's confirmed that, women of color are paid less. We also know that, when it comes to a sense of belonging, that's really important for women of color, but it's not always happening. And, it's important for women in general. When we talk about how people perceive diversity and inclusion, it's really important to women of color, but it may not be as important to other groups because people are, automatically included, particularly like we're focusing on engineering. Some other stuff connected to that would be that when it comes to caregiving, that's a big issue. So we looked at class, race, class, and gender, intersectionality in this project. And many times we don't look at class in higher education. We think we're all professors. We can all pay our bills. We don't have, food or food insecurity or anything like that. But when you look at us, many of us are caregivers. We are, first generation. We are the primary breadwinners. We had to, pay for our education, and we're still paying for that education. So we don't have the opportunity to just walk away. And I think that also impacts people and saying like, yeah, my situation may be bad, but what am I going to do? Like, am I going to leave this job to now go and do something else when my family
needs?
They're depending on me. And so like the bigger policy issue I think about is there often are not plan B's, C's, D's, E's, and F's for people once they get into these academic careers, particularly women of color. Like, what do we do? If we don't do this, if we get kicked out, then where do we work? And that's why I'm really talking about the power of entrepreneurship, the power of having multiple revenue streams. I could talk about that all doggone day. But, we don't. Something about education or graduate education, I still feel does not prepare us properly. Because, it's like go and do your research. And there's this narrative that everything's going to be okay if we do right. If we do our work, hold our head down, and we fit in the box. But everybody doesn't fit in the box. What happens when that box is broken? What happens when you have to do something that goes against who you are? Then do you continue to work in that box just to get a paycheck? And then you're broken on the inside? And so I find that a lot of women don't have the bigger vision and the options that prevent them from being caught in situations that will break them. So that was a lot. I want to hear from you about that, because I feel like I could flow with that one. What's your thought?
So what is my thought? So I'm actually a teaching assistant for a class that is actually not in the engineering school. It's taught by Professor Paul Edwards and Nicole Martinez in Science, Technology, and Society 1. And a big thing that, like, what we taught last week was, how academia and STEM research, like the social side of academia and STEM research, and how, like, even looking at peer review, and I think, like, if you look at it from the social side, if you're a woman of color in academia, because say you're trying to get a job as a professor, you may not get the job that you're clearly qualified for and get accepted into an institution that you could have done better. If you were to compare yourself to the white male counterpart, you could have done better, because you two are probably at the same level, but because of the color of your skin and your gender, you got a different position. Because you're at another institution, and when you do your research, you may not have the same level of funding to do your research. So there are certain techniques that you couldn't do. And so then you submit your paper to get published in a certain journal, and then you don't get accepted. And so all of these things working against you are ingrained because of a social thing. And so I like that you just brought that up, that, professors get stuck in a situation that they can't get themselves out of, because they have so many different people depending on them.
Yeah, like it's almost something like the mindset. Like I feel sometimes like I was extremely naive coming
Mm-hmm.
into this. Remember I told you the whole prepare to be a pioneer piece, and it's very much like many people go into environments and there's no one saying this is what you're going to experience or this is how you need to navigate this, but it's like you're blind, you're blindfolded as you're trying to figure stuff out. And by the time you realize like 5, 10, 15 years down the road, you're like, I don't even like this. What is this? Like, this is awful. You know what I mean? But it's like, is this it? But it's almost like I was talking to someone who also talked about, a reason to leave. And it's like, this is all you know. And some people are like, this is just how it is.
Yeah.
This is like, it can't be better because I can't picture what anything better is. And I just feel that that's also that limitation of trailblazing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, what would the option be? Because no one showed me what the other option could be. And I am the other option. And what? I'm just not here? Like there's no one here? So it's just bleak. I want to be so positive about this part, but I just feel like there's something that's still just not great.
Yeah.
Or the first. And it's hard and you don't realize, like, you don't have an option. Meaning, like, if you're working on your PhD, are you at some point you're like, I think I don't want this anymore. Let me go over here and get this business degree and be about this life. Like, it's so hard. Like that's the thing about a PhD. The deeper you get in, the harder it is to get out because you're so specialized and you kind of are putting yourself into a box. And I wish that we could do more breadth with the PhD. So it's like, okay, you have option A, B, C, D, E now before you go out, so that if this doesn't work, you shift in a year or you shift 2 years after that and you're more comfortable doing it.
And you have some advisors that cut ties with students that decide not to get into academia, which is unfortunate because to get a job as a professor is so hard in the first place.
Absolutely. So, and there aren't that many.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, every year it's just like which school, like you're refreshing the page to find which school has an opening.
Yes.
On these forums and websites. So
one other thing I want to say too about that, in a paper that was led by Joyce Main in our group, we're looking at some of the geographical pieces that come in. So when you're looking at like women of color, many women of color will work in the South. Like it's better if you also have that corresponding community with the university. And so you try to see, like, maybe in the Southwest, you see more, Latinx women, you see more Asian women in certain places, but you have to think about the bigger community. Like when you leave the institution, where are you going to get your hair done? Where are you going to, to worship? Where if you're a single woman, where you gonna date? I mean, if you're looking for, a population and people who are compatible with you, whatever that may be, you want to have a life. You want to have a social life, outside of the university, and it can be really dangerous to go to certain places because people would say like during your childbearing years, I would say for many women, it's like, what, you're going to be 45 and you just focus so much on your research, but your personal life suffered. And now you're at a place where you don't have options anymore. So much. I feel like I'm telling you like the bad story.
No, I don't think you're, no.
Oh.
I think, you know what? So I have the director for the fellowship that I have, the DARE fellowship, Diversifying Academia, DARE, Recruiting Excellence, Miss Anika Green. She said in one of our classes that we met that, our truth truth is our I want to say weapon. And I like this year that really stuck out to me, that you're so much better if you're prepared and if you know what issues may come before you. Because like you said about values, like you're so much in knowing that this might happen, and because I know this might happen, I can do this. And so I think it's very, very, very important for people to know the truth about what they're getting into.
Yeah, and I wish that that's what I had known. Like, if there was any, like, what do I wish I had known then? I wish I'd known how to be more entrepreneurial. It was already in me, but I wish that I had just learned. So it's like, you know what, Monica, like, create something and move on. Get that revenue stream going. Pop it. Do what you need to do. Flip it. Always. Get it in your bank account all the time. Because the more financially independent you are, the easier it is to be an activist also. And I think I got to a point where I one time told my husband, like, no shade to McDonald's, because I know I could love me some McDonald's fries, but I said, you know what? And this was a phase, but I said, I'd rather be a fry cook at McDonald's than be a piece in the academy. No shade to McDonald's, but it's like, you know what? That's it. And I think I have gotten to that point a couple of times. So yes. Need to move on probably to something positive. But I'm just saying, like, my point is, I think my point in saying that is that many times we think academia is the only place for us. But even if we have to work at McDonald's, guess what? I'm an industrial engineer. I know logistics. Maybe I'm cocky when I say it, but you know what? I might end up being the manager at McDonald's. I might be able to get some of my retirement savings and get me a franchise. Like, that's the way you have to think. It's like, if I'm out on my tail, then I have the skills to take it to another level. Never defeated. That's the mentality. Never defeated, no matter what happens. You may be temporarily, down, but yeah. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit.
No, you're not. I love the conversation. This is really going well. And so now I'm gonna get into one of my favorite questions, which is, what misconceptions of the professoriate would you like to dispel?
Oh my goodness, yes. This is great. So I think I said this the other day on Twitter, which is like Twitter, which could probably be misconceptions, right? That professors should not be on social media, but there are amazing people out there on social media having conversations and just sharing their work. I think that's it. Like, people think that professors cannot be humans. And I really, it's understood, hopefully, that if you've gotten a PhD and if you're of a certain, background or whatever, that you're going to be competent. We're not up there trying to prove that. Like, even though tenure is supposed to be that place, it's like, okay, if you get to the PhD level, then you can maybe write a paper. You can learn how to teach. Like, you can learn anything that you need to be a good professor. But I think people, once again, forget the human side. We watch reality TV. We cry as professors. We have to take care of our, elderly parents. We get sick. We're afraid sometimes. It's all the stuff that is human that we sometimes don't show people, because the academy wants you to show that strength. But I think there is value in vulnerability. There's value in humility, because I think many of our students come in and they feel that, and for you to be able to connect to them and show that human side shows that they can do what you do as well. I think there's that connection. And if anything, let's just go back to like COVID, where we are right now. You know, the pandemic and everything that has happened, like if that doesn't bring out the humility, or the not even the humility and the humanity of you, I don't know what will, because this is so much bigger than academia. It's so much bigger than a PhD. Like we're talking about lives, we're talking about economics, we're talking about now racial disparities. Like every single problem that you could think of in our society is coming on us. And I think we have to remember as professors that we are more than our jobs. So that's what I would say.
Yes, I would add that, you know, like when you see the Supreme Court justices with their, you know, solemn and like very composed, that is the persona that often I think in academia we try to put on our professors. And you know, I like that you brought up the social media and the fact that professors are human too, so we can make mistakes. And we can, you know, we cry, we, you know, etc.
And we don't know everything. You know, that's one of the things too. Like you have to look stuff up. And I think I was telling you this before we started the interview. OMG, am I halfway obsessed with like YouTube videos right now? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Because, you know, I was talking about this concept called stewardship that comes from, you know, Goldie and Dorr, but I used it for my research. And it's, you know, teaching in the broadest sense of the word. And I feel that YouTube is full of amazing people who have never taken a teaching course, but they are teaching their behinds off about so many topics. Some of them are a little off, but some of them are really good. And anything that you probably need to learn, just troubleshoot, you can find that from someone who's figured it out on YouTube. And if they know how to speak it well, if they know how to use their graphics well, if they know how to teach it well, like you are going to be better because of it. And we as the academy are very snobby about teaching and who's credentialed. But I'm telling you, you know, I predict in the next, you know, 10, 15, 20 years, we're going to have some people on YouTube who are outdoing some of the people who are in the academy, you know, teaching people how to do things that people don't want to pay, you know, tens of thousands of dollars for. But that's an issue for the other day. That's a policy issue right there. But if someone can figure out how to do it and then get paid on YouTube, do you really need the university? I mean, we're already doing virtual in a pandemic. We're seeing that you can do it if you need to. So, putting that out there.
I love that. And last but not least, I see that you're invited to join Michelle Obama at the White House to serve on a panel on the workplace flexibility. How was that experience for you? And I also know that you got a presidential award from Barack Obama as well. So please just talk about this whole experience, and again, like, amazing background, all that you've done at such a, you know, young age. I'd love to learn more about it.
Yeah. So I'll talk about Barack Obama first because that happened. So I wrote a grant, an NSF Career Award was what I got, and then I got the Presidential Award. And when you get the Presidential Award, you have an opportunity to go to the White House and see the president. And so there were 100 of us, and this was the day. I think the day when there was an earthquake in Haiti. And it was in January 2010, and we did not know if we would see President Obama, but he showed up. And, you know, it's the stories that I love telling that are like the people stories. Like, yes, you know, I got the award. Thank you. Thank you for my citation. But, you know, he walked in, and I remembered there were maybe 20 women out of 100 And he said, you know, he spoke about that. He spoke about the gender diversity, and he said, you know, it's so great to see so many women who are here because you could be role models for my daughter. And I was like, oh, you know, heart, that's amazing. So the other personal part is that, you know, President Obama I was on the same row that he was in, because he came in like up above, I mean, in the midst of us when we were doing our photos. And I hold true to this, but he looked down at me, and I know he saw me in my eyes. And you know, it's like he was, I felt like he connected to me, and he was like, sister, I see you. I know you did that. Because, you know, he was like, oh, okay, I see you. But I know it was like, yes, lady. So, you know, everybody was trying to be real cool. You know, everybody had been real formal. These are all these professors, young professors. And so, you know, he was getting ready to walk out. And, you know, we were kind of in this line. But when he walked out, everybody came around him almost like a U. And then they started reaching for him like he was a rock star. And then he like shook the guy's hands. But, you know, everybody got off those risers. And they were just like, yes. So I remember that part. That is my Barack Obama story. My Michelle Obama story is really interesting too, because like my mother ended up having a stroke, I want to say 8 months after I went to the White House. So she and my father had a chance to go with me. Like, I'm so happy that she was able to experience DC with me before she had a stroke. And I want to say the next year, there was this policy through the NSF about workplace flexibility. And I was at a coffee shop in Indiana, and someone called me from Michelle Obama's office or from NSF, and they're like, well, Michelle Obama's trying to have a panel. Say this was like Friday and on Thursday. It's like, Michelle Obama's having a panel on Monday. Will you be on the panel? And I was like, what? What's going on? So I ended up being on the panel talking about the importance of workplace flexibility for mothers and for people who are caregivers. And the personal part of the story is that I did not know that I would meet Michelle Obama. I was invited to the panel, but everybody's like, we don't know if she's going to be there. And so we found out when we got to the White House that we were going to meet her. 7 of us got to meet her.
Wow.
The NSF. And we were in whatever room. I don't know the rooms in the White House, but you know, we were announced. We had a little card, and you know, we were individually announced. And she was standing like in the middle of the room. And I remembered feeling kind of formal again, like, oh my gosh, you know, let me just stand by her. But she put her arm around me, and she said, thank you so much for what you're doing. Welcome to the White House. And, you know, I put my arm around her too. I was like, well, if she can hug me, let me hug her.
I'm gonna
let me lay there a little bit. Hug in. But, you know, she was just so gracious, so kind, so, you know, personable, just amazing. And I just feel really blessed, like from a perspective, like as an African-American woman, you know, it was just like, first of all, to get invited to the White House is amazing. But then to meet, you know, our first Black president, to meet our first Black first lady, I mean, and to really like be invited by them, like with an agenda, with security, you know, with everything that came with that, you know, I feel so
validated and honored.
Yes, you know what I mean? Like, you know, we talk about purpose, and, you know, of all the things that I could do in life, I just feel, I don't know, like as a person of faith, it just feels like being in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing, like for all the hard things that have happened.
Yeah.
Like, thankful that I have those memories in this career, because, you know, you have to have something to hold on to in the midst of the bad. And you're like, yes, like, I got memories from my grandkids. I got memories to just hold me, you know, just stuff, mementos. And so, I don't know, that just means something. Do you know what I mean? It's like that purpose. And it's not just meeting famous people, like I said, but it's I mattered.
Yeah.
And that's important to me. Knowing that I was recognized in the midst of being hidden.
I love that. That's a really powerful message, and this whole interview was so inspiring, and this ended up way better than I expected, because I didn't I didn't expect it to be so, you know, vibrant and willing to engage on this level. I'm so happy that you had this time to share with me for the interview. And I hope this is not the last time that we get to, you know, speak.
Yeah, thank you. And I need to send some people your way, because I'm the
I love that.
president of this academic leadership network. It's like a nonprofit, but we started a social justice movement, Black in Engineering. So we have like a speaker bureau. We have all types of faculty who can connect with you. Like, absolutely, you are amazing. So I am just so excited. Like, I said this, I think I said this on social media, but I'll say it for the video as well. I thought you were so respectful. The way that you engaged with me was wonderful. You were so persistent. You were so accommodating to me, you know, as a mother. You know, when I had some childcare issues and I had to schedule again, like, you were just there. And I just think you're just a gem. Like, I can just tell. I know superstars. Believe I met some superstars. You are a superstar. Like, you stand out. Like, I had to invest in you, because you're just amazing. Like, you have something that is more than textbook. So it's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. Oh gosh. That means coming from a superstar yourself.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, just gushing. Let's just on each other. But yeah, so remember me when, like, back in, like, whenever you have your big documentary and you're doing something else, just be like, I remember this. Let's have me as a clip.
Of course. Bio. I mean, you're the first professor that is on the channel, so there's no way that I could ever forget your contribution. But also, I think, despite being the first, I think you will also probably be one of the best interviews, because it just feels so right and genuine. So.
Oh, thank you. Oh, let me take my picture, because you know I gotta get my social media right.
Oh yes.
So let me get my stuff. So excuse me. Let everybody know what I was doing tonight. Thank you. Oh, this is cute. All right. Well, thank you so much. This is good.
Yes. All right. So thank you, Professor Cox. And until next time, this was amazing.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, send me the links. And
yes, I definitely will. Yeah.
All
right. See you. Right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching part 2 of this interview with Professor Monica Cox. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe to the channel and click the notification button. I hope you enjoy, and stay tuned for next week. Thank you.